Get that out of there.
I know we normally like to have a nice pose at the beginning, so.
Well, you like to have a pose. I just typically stare.
Okay. Here's Tanae's then.
Here, hold on. Let's get a good thumbnail for this.
Oh fuck!
And
My eyes.
Kung Fu Fenris cheers, and
Hey,
and there it goes.
wee, hype
Hey,
train.
the turtle.
Thanks
Subbing
for
at
everybody
tier 2.
who's subbing. It's so wonderful. Welcome. I've got some music in my ears, John. That is, I hope relatively appropriate for today, which is good.
Well, that's up to you. I could have just... I could tell you where on the Epidemic Sound playlist you should just hit play. And believe it or not, that's what I do for Kate. When Kate's on, she listens to the same music at the same time.
That's charming.
We synchronize.
Synchronicity.
Synergy. You hope the bar would hit mine or Scott's face. No, the bar is right across the middle, right at the bottom. Because there is no just God.
Oh! There's Shuriken everywhere.
There we go. Now I won't interfere. All right. It's the second one of these fuckers.
I love how everything you do on clinic hours now is in like threes. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I gotta do another one.
I mean, to be fair, I have to do them no matter what, right?
That is a good point as well, yeah. Actually,
like the concept of running character creation, I assume that every player gets to have a character, right?
I mean, you haven't seen Liz on the stream yet, so I guess it remains to be seen.
So you heard it here first, folks. Scott doesn't want Liz.
No, I didn't. Oh God, I didn't say it.
Scott does not want Liz playing with him.
Oh boy, that's disappointing. I'm hyped, John. I'm hyped to be here.
You're allowed.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
I am sorry about a $5 error in your ledger. That sucks.
As someone who tended to a very small bar for quite some time, Requiem, I know exactly what you mean, and it's infuriating. So good luck.
Was that the Siegel Center?
Yeah. A theater bar, actually. I was the Tienza. I was not the Tienza. I was the Elmi, actually. Many a night.
The FOH manager?
Mm-hmm.
So you were the one who had to beat people up when they were...
Yeah, basically.
Being bad.
When they were rowdy, I was like, oh, could you not do that, please? Yeah, well...
I must warn you that I do have the police on speed dial, but they've asked me not to call anymore.
Basically. There was security across the street, and they were like, what is it? Like, what do you want, man? I was like, Anyway, no, that's funny. But nothing... Well, I have many stories from my time here. That is not what we're doing today, I don't think.
Why am I so dark? I look so
I'm
dark.
very bright.
You're very bright, but I am very dark, and part of the darkness is coming from here. I don't get it. My lights are on 100%. I said 100.
He's so mad.
I can fix this.
Perfect.
I'm Bob the fucking Builder. Open this.
Oh my gosh.
There we go. Now I don't suck.
Yay!
Scott is a bouncer. Sorry, I don't see it. He's too nice. I will actually disagree with that statement. Not that you're not nice. You are among the nicest people I know. However, and I will say this, and hopefully this is not speaking too far out of turn, Scott is also one of the people I know who is the first to step forward when things go bad.
I do tend to try to respond quickly in an emergency setting. It's true. That's a good point. Now, if the situation called for me to like escort a very large person out of a building, I don't know how that would go, honestly. But but thank you. I'll take all the compliments that I'm receiving today. So kind.
I mean, so picture like a situation where something uncomfortable is happening. Like somebody's like visibly crying and upset, or two people are having an argument in a public space or whatever, and everyone else is just kind of doing one of these, Scott just walks right up. It's kind of amazing to watch.
Hi, have you seen LARPs the series? Scott Humphrey, welcome to the that was my go-to hi for a long time. Just kidding. Hype train
success.
Choo-choo. What kind of foods did we get? Oh, look at that. I love that.
That turtle.
It's so cute.
But Lo got a
sleepy kitty.
Hype sleep. That seems contradictory. Somehow. The oxymoron is there.
Doesn't make any sense. What are you going to do? I have been looking forward to this since before Kate's character generation. I mean, obviously, but like more specifically, the more I read into the system and the book, the more I'm excited to talk about it, John. I gotta say.
Well, we are going to get a chance to talk about it. I mean, this shit is happening. There are a couple of things that I'm going to make clear at the outset while we're doing this. The first is that if anybody in chat has any questions they want to ask, whether it's about the character creation that we're doing, the game that we're going to play, or about anything, honestly, role-playing related, you can throw that in there. You can just use an !Q, and that will automatically be picked up by our question catcher, and we'll be able to throw it up there on screen.
Example.
So, yeah, the example here of why does Scott's character not have a shirt? I mean, we'll be able to throw it out there. So that's !Q, so you know that. Second thing, this is specifically for Scott. Today, obviously, in character creation, nothing here is set in stone. You can make whatever choices you like, but if you then later on decide that you do not wish to make some of these choices, we can revert. No issues whatsoever. The only thing that I'm going to ask is that you avoid not choosing something you want to choose just because you're worried someone else will take it.
Absolutely.
It's totally fine to say, I don't have a choice for this section right now. Like, that's completely fine. If you're just like, I don't know what to choose between these three things, maybe I'll find out what the other people are taking. That's legit. But if you're like, oh, I really want to be, I don't know, somebody really specialized in games, but I don't know if Liz wants to be really specialized in games, it's not good enough. You slap it in there. Even if you watched Kate's character creation and you know what Kate has chosen and you want to step on Kate's big choices, that's fine too. Because then we'll get together and we'll resolve it.
Yeah.
Either it's not a problem and you both have those stats, or it is a problem, and then the two of you will be presented with a pool cue snapped in half, and and that will be that.
And I have the reach, but Kate's got the fire. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure how it would go down.
I don't even know if you have the reach. I mean, I guess you do.
Oh my God. I got roasted. That's very fun. No, I have average sized arms. Thank you very much. What was I going to say?
Kate's got decently long arms.
The thoughts I have, the images that I have for my character, it's funny because they're pretty firmly set in sort of like a cyberpunk setting. But of course, the book refers to the sort of like, you know, the setting of Legend of the Five Rings, which we are adapting. So there's going to be some moments where I'm going to go, okay, how would that translate? What does it feel like to choose this or that? There we go.
What does it feel like to be human?
It's pretty good most of the time, actually. Thanks for asking.
I'll say that when I got to work this morning, there was a message waiting for me. Somebody had sent me, somebody who is relatively high up in the organization sent me a question about, I'm thinking of getting into podcasting, and I don't know what kind of mic I should pick, because he had seen previously when we had been in a meeting together that I'm the only person at work who has like a boom mic and studio lighting.
Yeah, like actual things. Yeah,
actual things. And so I probably sent him like 1,000 words worth of shit. And I was like, oh, he probably didn't want all this information. And then he writes back and he's asking all sorts of like really in-depth questions and like, oh yeah, no, I was really hoping that I could find a microphone where I could put my compressors and gates built in on the hardware because my chain is such a pain to organize. And I'm like, oh fuck, he knows what he's talking about. And I was like,
damn, okay.
I was like, that was a great way to start my Thursday.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's always great when someone's like, hey, tell me about this thing that you know quite a bit about. And then you give them a bunch and you're like, oh, perhaps that was too much. And then they come back. They were actually paying attention. They were listening. They care. It's wonderful.
It's like when somebody hits one of those like things that you just can't let go. Like anytime someone's like, oh, I don't have an accent. And I'm like, I can't. No, I can't.
Exactly.
Sure, I can get into voice acting. My friends say I do funny voices. How do I get started in the industry? Okay, step 1. Learn to act.
Yeah, bingo. That's honestly, that is a good step 1. Yeah, I had to kind of not confront, but I had to talk my friend down from something like that the other day because he was like, oh, like I've done some acting, like I could do what you do. And I was like, oh yeah, I've had a camera in my hands. I bet I could shoot some photos the way you do. He's a professional photographer, right? I was just like, come on, man. Like craft, just because my craft doesn't involve specialized mechanics doesn't, anyway.
Like game recognizes game to a certain extent.
Yes.
But
100%.
Like, yeah, I can take a photograph. I would never call myself a professional photographer.
Absolutely not.
I
hear you.
I don't think somebody else could come along and be like, oh yeah, no, acting, yeah, that's something that I can do. I was in my high school play.
There it is, right?
I played a mean Capulet. You're like, oh, okay.
Oh boy. And as Requiem says, right? Like, I can act. I mean, I would suck, but I can act. Like it's, I mean, there you go, right? It's
absolutely.
It's, yeah.
The hell of it is that sometimes somebody does have like a lot of innate talent and you're like,
sure.
Fuck.
Damn it. Like, the exception that proves the rule.
I had to work for this shit. And then
those sons of guns.
And you just shake your head. But whatever. You know what? Let's get started on this. So, as we know, Legend of the Five Rings is the system that we are using. We are hacking it to be somewhat cyberpunk, but it is the system that we got. And as a result of that system, we are playing the game of 20 questions, which is how you fill out your character sheet. We'll be asking you these 20 questions, some of which you will perhaps not be able to or not willing to answer. All of this is fine. We're going to complete it as much as we can going forward. If you have any thoughts or feelings, go ahead. And obviously, those of us who are joining in our chat will be able to poke at you and potentially give you some thoughts or feelings about things you may have not considered going forward.
Excellent.
We ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, okay then.
Okie dokie.
The first question, very simply, is what clan does your character belong to?
I was intrigued by a number of them. I pretty quickly settled on...
No. What clans were you intrigued?
I will tell you. I was intrigued by the Scorpion clan, certainly. Unicorn is just cool because they're kind of outsiders. So that was interesting to me. It's a bit of a wild card in a way, right? For quite some time, I was looking at the Dragon clan because of the focus on sort of like ruling and so on. But all of those, to me, it really came down to like which clan had the focus on the thing that I think my character is going to want to know a lot about. And it's the Phoenix clan. My character is going to have, and we'll talk more about why and how and on all this as we go, is going to have knowledge to do with theology, which of course in this setting is knowledge of the AI and shrines and things to it.
Well, that does mean that you get a +1 in theology and a +1 in your void ring.
Excuse me. Oh, I see. I just want to address the turtle really quick. Weirdly enough, Lion is the one clan that I jumped over immediately because in my book, I was like, oh, I don't want to do anything too similar to Pyres, the character I just played. And there's a lot of like, and like I had played someone of House Gwydion and changed, like there's a lot of like pride, loyalty, honor. Those were not things I wanted to interact with in the same way.
Now,
FYI.
Is it because you couldn't think of a good finger gesture for Scorpion?
This is a Scorpion, right?
There you go.
But the Phoenix would be one of these, right? Is that what we're, right? Something like this?
Sure.
Are we doing hand gestures now? Is that what's happening?
No.
Oh.
So if we're thinking about the Phoenix clan, then let's just go over what that means.
Yeah, tell me.
You do have that +1 to your void ring and your +1 to theology. Your status is starting at 30. So in terms of status compared to other clans, that's on the lower end. Some clans get to start with status at 35. You only start at 30, but that's okay. I'll point out that the Phoenix clan in terms of this game is the clan that perhaps is the closest to the AI, or understanding as much as anyone can understand how AI works, seeing as how we're replacing spirits with AI in this game. And that's fitting in with theology. Theology is the skill. We may end up renaming it, but
yeah, that's a good point,
that is a good unicorn symbol. But this is an indication that this is where your interests lie, and it's this now makes our second Phoenix clan. So you're sharing a clan with Kate.
Yeah.
Again.
Actually, that is a good point. I thought given how kind of widespread the clans are and how organized they are into families and so on, it didn't feel like I was making the same choice. As we said also, though, that doesn't really matter. It's the choice I wanted to make. Right? Like it absolutely, there are some values in the Phoenix clan that I feel like are really represented in my character. So that's going to be really cool.
Does that mean that the theme song for NeoRokugan is now Fall Out Boy's Phoenix?
Can we get the rights?
You'll raise someone like a phoenix and then you'll change them like a remix?
Like a... Yeesh. Although we are remixing the setting, so... do I know any people in Fallout Boy? Let's see. Patrick and I go back quite a way. No, I'm just kidding. I obviously don't know anything. Come on, like, what are you?
All right, we'll move on to question 2. What family does your character belong to?
Okay, so there's a few listed here in the book. I wanted, I wanted a family that fit with the sort of. I'm never sure whether to start this as like sort of a concept conversation or just like here's the choice and why. You know, I went with the Kaido family. The first sentence really stuck out to me as something that I was like, okay, that seems like a really cool jumping off point.
You want to throw that out there?
I do, yeah. The small Kaido family has been given the task of safeguarding the many shrines scattered across the Phoenix holdings, from small altars sheltered by a single tree to massive sanctuaries. And then it goes on to explain how they do that. Oh, yeah. To fulfill their responsibilities, they have mastered the use of charmed arrows and prayers to protect the shrines from spiritual foes, and practical archery to fend off more mortal dangers. The Kaido are rarely seen outside Phoenix lands, as they have so many tasks within, but they occasionally make pilgrimages to visit other shrines. What really kind of drew my eye there was a family dedicated to the maintenance of shrines to various artificial intelligences. I'm not quite sure exactly, and maybe you've discussed this more on another stream, John, but I'm not quite sure what forms these shrines are going to take. How is it that you can make an offering to a digital being, right? Like, what do you offer them? but playing someone who's like a traveling kind of caretaker of these things, a putter out or a fires, if you will, really appealed to me. Something about it that seemed really cool.
Makes a lot of sense. This does involve a ring increase, but you get to choose. So you can choose to increase your ring of air or a void.
Can I throw out my understanding of the 5 rings and then you can correct them, or do you want to read them, or whatever whatever works? The rings represent approaches to tasks, and then at their core, my understanding of them are as follows. To do things with air is gracefully or subtly. Earth is stoically or with patience or groundedly, right? Fire would be directly or with passion. Water would be like with adaptability or flexibility, trying new approaches. And then void, the weird one, is...
Well, void's the weird one.
Void is the weird one. It's to look inward, so it's to do things with intuition, I guess? Just sort of spiritually, just sort of knowing how to do something, maybe.
Well,
that's not the best way to put it, but
no. That's honestly, you're basically, you're right in there. The 5 rings in this game. So the idea is that air is innuendo, swiftness. Earth is stubbornness and patience. Fire is innovation, passion, rage, ferocity.
Okay.
Water is adaptability, flexibility. And void is emptiness, nirvana, transcendence. So the idea of that your ring is involved in your approach, that's kind of where we get into mechanics. And the concept of an approach, if you look at the different skills, each skill has a standard 5 approaches.
Right.
Now, it is possible to use a different approach with a skill, but they sort of have that as that's sort of like an optional thing that we can use, although I'm honestly kind of totally okay with that. Because it says, for some tasks relating to a given skill, the approaches of a different skill group are actually more fitting. So the storyteller should feel free to resolve a skill check using the approach of any other skill groups whenever common sense dictates. So, yeah, you have the rings correct, but then that leads us back to what ring would you like to increase based on the fact that you are part of the Kaido family?
I am more interested in playing a character who is tricksy, for lack of a better word, and perhaps precise as well, depending on what the task is. So I would take air here, +1 air ring.
All right. Yeah, now, of course, you are able to increase your rings with experience later on, right?
Yeah.
This is essentially the attributes in a storyteller system.
Right.
Okay, you only have 5. So, and they also, one thing that you'll have to get used to is that the game doesn't kind of assume that you have, oh yeah, well I have like a 5 and a 4 and I have a few at 2 and like your base is 1 and you go up from there, but you're not going to have, 3 4s and 2 3s. Some of your rings you may only have 1 to start with, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are deficient in that way. It's just not typically the way that you approach things.
I find it fascinating as well because, and maybe we've already discussed this, John, but like my approach as a player to a given circumstance versus my character's approach to a player, I'm really going to have to be very careful about. I feel like it's a great role-playing aid rather than being like, I am strong because I have lots of strength. It's like, I'm going to choose to approach this problem in a way that is grounded or in a way that is practical because I have a lot of earth ring, whatever it is, right? And
I'm excited by that too.
Yeah, it's just because like I know me, the player, has specific ways of approaching problems, as I'm sure you know from 6 years of like playing at the table with me. So I need to like be really mindful of like, John, I'm going to punch him in the face. And you're like, okay. And I'll say, can I use my air ring? And you'll go, nope. Or whatever it is, right? That's a bad example, but like,
yeah,
it's just interesting. Yeah, fascinating.
There's something exciting to me about it because I really also like the idea that you can't quantify certain aspects of your innate abilities. So, or attributes, I should say. So you'll have skills, and of course, skills are things that you train at, that you work at, and stuff like that. But there's a part of me that's never felt super great about the concept of, oh yeah, well, I have intelligence 4, and that means I'm smarter than somebody with intelligence 3. Or I have strength 5, and then there's somebody else who's, like, they're a child, but they also invested in strength 5. But I should be stronger than them because they're a child. And you're like, well, the abstractions, and oh God. And this kind of approach, I'm not saying that I'll never want to go back to using attributes again, but this kind of approach to it, that the idea is more about how does your character interact with the world, and what are the ways that they choose. And sometimes you're just not going to have a choice.
Yeah.
If you're like, no, I'm going to run as fast as I can to get away from this person. Okay, well, then maybe you don't get to use that earth ring that you've maxed out.
Right.
And that's especially useful, I think, for this group, the group that we have, because while you do take strategy into account, you're also, I don't think any of the three of you are more beholden to strategy than you are to story. And
fair.
And look, if you are beholden to strategy, that's fine. That's fair. But there is something I think interesting to me about, I'll roll, even if it's not necessarily the best roll that I could possibly do in this situation, because that's what I got.
I have definitely chosen rolls deliberately, not because they were bad, but because they were right. And then, trashed them because I didn't have any dots in my pool, whatever it is.
Right. And again, I'm going to repeat this, in fact, even though I just said it, just because I think it's that important. It is not important that you choose story over strategy if that's not the game you want to play.
Super important, yeah.
Right?
Agreed.
Like, don't let anyone tell you, like, oh yes, well, I've ascended into the more enlightened role-playing form. Like,
no.
Sometimes you just want to hit things.
Yeah, and exactly, right? Like, what's the fun? I think as human beings also, we have such a wide variety of entertainment options. You can indulge that part of yourself at the role-playing table or on your console. I don't know, whatever.
Sure.
Or like literally punching things. You can go out and like box. I don't know, whatever.
I don't know, whatever. Fuck you. Don't judge me.
I'm gonna hit you in your face next time I see you, John. No, I'm not gonna do that.
Now that you can see me.
Oh, I made enough of a mess of your house last time I was over.
Wait, what? What did
the bread incident?
Oh, that.
The bread incident. Yeah.
Perhaps. Yeah, go check that out. That's on YouTube now. Previous Sunday playing Taskmaster, which was just awesome. Did I tell you that on Monday I got into a work meeting and the first thing that they were talking about, though they've never talked about it before, was Taskmaster and how much they loved it? Just
because?
Yeah, just because.
That's fun.
They were saying that they were watching Norwegian Taskmaster.
Oh no, a whole other series to watch, John. What have you done to me? I'll have to watch that at some point.
All right, we're going to move on.
Let's do it.
So the Kaido family is an interesting choice, also because we already know a little bit about Kate's character, and Kate's character wanted to be somebody who would also be someone tied to shrines. So this is an interesting way that we can link the two of you, right? And because we had previously said that establishing a home base was something that all three of you mentioned as stuff that you were interested in, then we're getting pretty close to the idea that a shrine seems like a pretty good candidate.
Yeah, especially because within this universe, right, they are, as I read not too long ago, anywhere from like a single statue at the roadside to a whole huge structure. And so it could be of any size.
That's right.
And shape.
And in our case, a shrine is kind of like a connection to the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's keep going. We're now moving on to your role in your school.
Excellent.
So these are kind of like classes. What is your character's school, and what roles does that school fall into? Have you already had a look at schools?
I have. Yes, I have. And it's, again, super fascinating. This is where the majority of the like sort of advancement information comes in, which is something I love to look at before I build a character. I kept it simple, though. If I'm interested in playing a character who travels and interacts with the idea of like protecting shrines as part of his duties.
I have a feeling like I know where this is going.
So I was looking at the Kaido Shrinekeeper School. The role is monk that it has alongside it. Monks are described in the book as being sort of similar in duties to the Shugenjas.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of goes on to say, like, you know, at the end of many samurais' careers, they like retire and become monks, but you don't have to be old. You can be young and like swear an oath or an order, that sort of thing.
Well, this does make me interested, I gotta say. I do like the concept of you going hard into your family and your school. I think that'll be an interesting way to go about this. There are a couple of things that you get right off the bat. You're going to get a +1 to your air and your +1 to your water rings.
Okay.
You also get to start with an honor of 45. And
which feels like a decent number, I think. I can't remember.
I think of the honor, it is on the higher end.
Okay.
Some only get 30 or 35. I mean, shinobi only get 30.
Okay. Well,
but
it's because shinobi don't exist, right? Like, quote unquote. I mean, they do, but
yeah. But you do get 45 for this.
Nice.
And you get to choose 4 starting skills.
Okay. Of the ones that are listed
of the
here.
listed ones here. Have you chosen them already, or do you want me to go over them with you?
I've chosen 3, and so I'm down to a choice for my 4th, and I want to talk it through with you.
All right, let's hear what the 3 are that you already have.
+1 fitness for a
let's
traveling person.
Yep.
+1 martial arts ranged for someone who uses a bow.
Yeah.
+1 smithing. I'm really interested in
in breaking the crafts curse. Which
basically.
Is not really a curse. I mean,
no, not at all. It's a deliberate choice. Playing a character who has some experience refining or building weapons and armor.
Mm-hmm.
And then, not interested in performance for this character.
Okay.
So that brings me down to meditation and theology.
Right.
And I think I'm curious as to what the sort of distinction is between those 2 skills.
Sure. So let's go. We'll go straight to the skills, and we will discuss them because I think this is important.
Yes.
Meditation is. I'm going to read directly from the book, and then we can talk about how we're going to transpose it over here.
Excellent.
The life of a samurai is one of stress and turmoil. Meditation helps a samurai look past worries about tomorrow, missed opportunities of the past, and even the insistence of the world of now to find peace within themselves. Martial skills are defined by struggle, and for many warriors, the greatest struggle is the one within. Meditation is the skill that covers the battles fought in one's own mind. It is the skill used to process one's own emotions, to recover mental control when shocked, and to resist confusion and supernatural influence of the mind. War might be a samurai's pursuit, but a human being at war must face the steady erosion of the soul or risk succumbing completely to brutality. Most samurai train in meditation both to ready their minds for the terrors of battle and to seek greater cosmic knowledge within themselves.
Okay.
So you can think of this a little bit like willpower. I think.
Mental fortitude in a way, right? Like, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
So a couple of the approaches that we would see is using logic to overcome your personal feelings would be an earth approach. A water approach might be reflecting on the nature of your own desires, or understanding how to align your goals with your desires, or resisting rage. A fire approach might be using your emotions to reject a seemingly inevitable conclusion before you.
Ooh.
Which that's kind of sexy. I
It's
kind
an
of like that.
interesting thing to say, yeah.
Staying in an emotional state for long periods of time, resisting fear. And an erring would be like understanding how to align your goals with your ideals, or to resist despair. Because I know that you're also moving into the air ring itself. So convincing yourself of the truth of something, finding weaknesses in your viewpoints and ideologies. So it's really self-reflective. So it's kind of like a mixture of integrity and willpower, I guess, would be a way to put it.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Now, in terms of theology quite specifically is about AI. So if we were looking at an Earth approach, that might be like knowing facts about the formal doctrines of AI, knowing about the historical occurrences of, say, the singularity that occurs or occurred. The water ring might be like identifying specific elements of aspects of AI, interacting, knowing how the average person of a given walk of life interacts with AI. Fire might be guessing what supernatural forces, so in this case, guessing which programs may be at work depending on secondary evidence, or reconciling two contradictory AI, offering a novel explanation of the meaning of an AI's declaration. For air rings, that could be noticing the telltale signs of an artificial intelligence walking among humans.
Ooh.
Hey, Krister.
Krister, thank you.
It's good to see you. And a void approach for this might be determining the veracity of something that occurred as a result of AI. Predicting the behavior of AI would be void. So those are kind of your two choices here.
Yeah. Yeah, the question, so for me, it kind of comes down to, during like my training, did I kind of continue to pursue, because this would put me at +3 theology if I took another theology.
You currently have +2 theology right now.
Yeah. It feels like that would be, did I continue my studies of the AI during my work, or did I at least spend some time kind of preparing myself, like, making sure that I can keep myself calm?
So what kind of a monk are you? Because I'll point out that you have played a monk in a non-RPGClinic campaign before.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the difference between Five Paths Ascending and this character?
And this chuckle. The difference, if I can try to put it as simply as possible, I think, is that I would like this monk to have a very big divide between his duty, which is to support, protect, guard, maintain shrines to the AI.
Right.
And we're going to get into this later, I know, but and his desire to want to use his skills to carve out a better place in the world for people.
For humanity.
For humanity. And I don't think that's necessarily compassionate either. I mean, compassion is one of the tenets of Bushido or whatever, but whatever. But I think there's an aspect that's like kind of power hungry about this character, as opposed to, Five Paths was very much just like, oh, I'm one with the universe, or whatever. What kind of monk is this guy? He's one who doesn't mind putting somebody down to protect what's important, I think, is the sort of short and the long of it. Because I know the word monk tends to sort of imply like peace loving or whatever.
So in our case, I mean, here we actually have Kung Fu Fenris mentions, is the Kaito a monk school, or does the school just have monk features? Specifically, this school that you've selected the Kaido Shrine Keeper School. It is only monks who would attend. The thing is, we may not use the term monk in the game, but I would suggest personally here that what you're describing means that you may be aware of AI, you may even believe that the shrines are important, but I'd say that you probably need a certain amount of self-discipline in order to make those choices that you're describing here. So I'm going to suggest you may want to take meditation.
I think I am. I'm going to do it. I'm putting it on, especially if there's going to be a lot of difficult decisions to make, you know? Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah. And
go for it. Sorry.
No, I think that's really cool.
I'm curious to see, and this will probably come out more today and then also in play, whether my idea for this character is going to mesh at all with any of the stats on my sheet. Like I'm trying to choose with those things in mind, of course, but I'm fascinated to see how it goes. And
we'll find out where it goes from there. Right? Yeah. Kung Fu Fenders also mentions that and this is standard L5R canon, the Kaito are a recent addition to the world. They were a lower ranking family. They were brought into the Empire from the outside, mostly used to maintain smaller shrines until a minor calamity uplifted them into the ranks of the Phoenix. I'm going to suggest that this is something that you can decide if you want to keep that as part of the game or not. Because honestly, we're kind of carving our own universe, and one thing that we are going to have to be recognizant of is that there will be people who will come in who are huge fans of L5R. Absolutely. And they'll know more about the game than we do. Because I will freely admit, I have not read L5R material before 5th edition. I haven't.
Yeah.
And I don't intend to. Not because I don't like L5R, but because we're already putting our own hack onto it.
That's it, right?
But maybe it's the sort of thing that we want to hold on to. We want to keep to make people sort of have those moments of like, aha, yes, that works. Or maybe we don't.
Maybe we want to carve our own path. Yeah.
Maybe those people.
We're going to do what we want. It is fascinating to me. This idea is fascinating, so I'm going to keep it in mind as I flesh out backstory as we move on. It's really interesting.
Makes sense to me. Well, we then have to move on to, you have as your technique types available in this game. You have kata, you have rituals, and you have shuji.
Okay. And then I think I remember that kata are sort of combat techniques, more or less. Rituals are downtime techniques, sort of like longer, sort of things that take longer. And then shuji are written or social.
I believe that is correct. Yes.
We should probably check that, eh? That is interesting, though, Kung Fu Fenris. Well, so here's the other thing, though, if I can just jump back in here. The school, as you level up your ranks, like I have access to, for example, rank 1 air invocations as part of my school training. So I can't necessarily take invocations, but I can take rank 1 air invocations as part of my school training. So it, and you mentioned Kiho as well. It's fascinating stuff.
That's right. So it's kind of a situation here where you will have access to things like invocations, even though it is not something that you can typically buy. Right? You can buy any of the things that are involved in your school, but if I remember correctly, since you do not have access to invocations typically, I don't know if you're allowed to just buy anyone that you want using XP. I would have to check.
Yeah, that is because it's not in my techniques available, right? So it wouldn't make sense to me. Yeah, fascinating.
So here I've got the techniques open in front of me, so I'll be able to just quickly go over what each of them mean. So kata are specialized combat techniques that allow martial artists to vanquish even foes who exceed them in physical strength, speed, or agility. Kiho are philosophical and spiritual techniques for aligning one's inner energy to that of the wider cosmos.
Okay.
This allows monks and other seekers of enlightenment to act in harmony with the universe's natural course. So this is also, to me, this would be the equivalent of being able to jack in.
But not available,
yeah.
right? Not available to me, interestingly.
Invocations are prayers and offerings to powerful spirits in exchange for earthly support. They're practiced primarily by Shugenja. Rituals are religious ceremonies performed by spiritualists in Rokugan. Rituals tend to be ceremonial, lengthy, and of esoteric effect. Right? So this
Esoteric effect.
To me,
Sorry.
rituals are the equivalent of you offering up code.
Okay.
Shuji are verbal and social techniques allowing those who employ them to communicate clearly, avoid social traps, motivate their allies, manipulate their rivals. Their new actions are a way that a character can spend opportunity.
Okay. Fascinating.
And there's Maho, which are evil sorcerers' techniques. Cool. There's Ninjutsu, which are the secretive techniques of shinobi, which you also don't have.
No.
Means you don't have that. Now, in terms of running the game, that is about spending experience. Because I do know, Kung Fu Fenders, that going off of your curriculum means that it doesn't help you as much in leveling up your school. The thing that I don't remember, if in this edition, you cannot buy techniques that you're not normally able to cover because you don't have the prerequisites. So that's something that I'd have to check, because honestly, I don't remember right off the top of my head. Oh shit. Yeah,
Right.
off curriculum
That
is limited to the available text.
That would make sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That would make sense to me.
In curriculum, yeah, if it's available as part of your curriculum, you buy whatever the fuck you want. It doesn't matter.
And it helps you rank up in your school faster, which
That's
again, such a cool way of going, okay, my school would want me to take these things, but I really feel like my character needs to learn this, and I'm going to go off curriculum and do that. Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah, and there is something that I find interesting as well about when we're looking at this, when we're kind of examining what's going on here, the interesting thing is that increasing a ring is not something that's part of your school.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I didn't have anything for that.
Oh, I thought you were going to.
No.
And I feel like that's because the schools presumably all teach like a relatively balanced approach to training, right? You can't just only learn one way to do one thing. That would be silly. I don't know. That's interesting to me though, because that's the thing you would want to increase for sure, right?
Absolutely.
Well, at some point.
But that's okay. I don't think that racing to go up in rank is as important. Now, in terms of the game, you will get a school ability, which I'm just going to bring up here. We have to go back and select some starting techniques, but your school ability in this is, as an action, you can augment one of your arrows with a prayer to the kami. And
pretty sweet.
You'll basically get, you reduce the target number. Whoops, come back here. So you make the check to perform one invocation you know. So this is going to be an invocation that you have to know that's relating to the school, and you reduce the target number by your school rank. So useful, absolutely useful, but it isn't like the only thing. Right?
Right.
So this is opportunity. And you may spend opportunity times 2 from a failed check to et cetera, et cetera. Okay. You do have a couple of starting techniques that you have to choose. You do automatically get Hawk's Precision and Tempest of Air.
Yeah.
Not Tempest of Air, Tempest of Air.
Temptress of Air.
Temptress of Air. But you get to choose between Cleansing Rite, Commune with the Spirits, and Threshold Barrier.
Now, I have read these. I wouldn't be able to recite them for you word for word, rather. My recollection of these rituals is that Cleansing Rite is a rite used to cleanse someone of like Shadowlands taint or perhaps some other infection or whatever. Commune with the Spirits is to directly, well, pray, I guess, to a Kami or an AI in this case. Not pray, but like interact with. And then Threshold Barrier seals an entrance to a place against a specific kind of living creature or monster or AI or whatever.
Right.
That's what I remember of these techniques. I am going to, because Cleansing Rite is the one that interests me the least of those. So I would go with Commune with the
that's
Spirits
sometimes
and
the
Threshold
best
Barrier.
way to pick. It's just, I don't want this.
Yeah, I'll take the others. Even though it does seem, useful, I'm going to go with the others. Commune with the Spirits seems, in our type of game, exactly the kind of thing you want to be able to do. A ritual to reach out to a specific powerful, like NPC type thing. If you succeed, like, you know what I mean? It seems cool for the game.
Absolutely.
So that's a for sure.
You also get a starting outfit.
Wee.
In this case, your starting outfit involves Sanctified Robes, a Wakizashi, a Yumi, which is a bow, a quiver of arrows. You can either have a bow staff or a knife.
Probably take the bow staff. Seems cool.
Okay. A scroll satchel, which will probably be more like an iPad, and a traveling pack.
Sick. Nice.
So,
yeah,
that's a pretty simple thing. Hey, we're an hour in when we've answered 3 questions.
Go!
It's fine. The later questions, you start moving pretty quickly through them.
Okay, that's cool.
Then we have to ask, how does your character stand out within their school? So this is a way that you essentially get to increase one of your rings, whichever ring you choose.
So this was also really interesting for me because I knew the answer and then I couldn't find the answer in the list until I kind of dug into it a bit more. Because I was using sort of different language. I feel like the way this guy stands out at his school is through his sort of essentially stoicism, the idea to just be able to withstand challenges. Yes, he's thinking creatively about them. Yes, he's dealing with them in a tricky way, but it's more so that like, okay, you're throwing some more shit at me. Fine, I'm just going to deal with it. Like that would be the way I think he would stand out because it would be unusual.
So it seems to me like that's Earth Ring.
Yes, I think that seems appropriate to me.
Okay. Well, then we're going to slap 1 into your Earth. We're also going slap it in the Earth. So it's essentially your ability to withstand challenge.
Yeah, the way it's... Sorry.
Or is it something else that you'd prefer?
No, it's... Yeah, I think it's... Well, the way it's written here, right? Stoicism is a trait valued greatly, and your character bears challenges and hardships without complaint. I feel like it's that, right? It's in the face of a new challenge, it's a get it done attitude. It's a like, okay, fuck this, we're doing it, So that would be stoicism.
Yeah,
I think.
The turtle's saying standing out as a stoic in a monk school, that's a feat. Yep. I think that's fair.
I'll take it.
Moving on into part 3, honor and glory. So number 5, who is your lord and what is your character's duty to them? I'm specifically going to skip who is your lord.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We can definitely choose a Giri for you, which is your duty. But the Lord, I think we might have to skip, because seeing as how we may be involved in a home base situation, the three of you may share a Lord, in which case we're going to have to come up with that together. But we do have to select a Giri for you. Now, a Giri is essentially, it's how your character acquires esteem in the eyes of their Lord. And it's related to your character's reputation within the Empire, their glory. Did you have an idea for this?
I did. Because the fucker. What the hell? I thought we were playing a game. Because this character is essentially a traveler, right? Someone who, not a nomad, but like someone who can be sent out to do things in the world. What I wrote here was, or what my ideas for myself was, the duty could be something akin to finding specific materials and information far and wide to be better able to supplicate to the AI in question. So if the Lord has a specific AI to which they supplicate, then sending my character out to find additional materials and information to be better able to do that.
Okay.
I'm trying to like narrow that down for us here.
I think that I might suggest, and again, this is something we're going to tweak anyway.
Oh yeah,
right?
For sure.
I think I might suggest find specific materials and information far and wide for us to be better able to supplicate to AI. And the reason why I'm adding for us is because if it's just, oh, you have to find information, well, that's great. But this Lord is specifically asking you to find it and bring it back to them. And not like, oh yeah, find it and then distribute it among the populace. Give it to our enemies. Yeah. I don't give a fuck.
I love this guy. This Lord is great. Can we talk more? This is fantastic.
So it's not necessarily a completely selfish request. For all you know, or perhaps you do know anyway, you bring stuff back to your Lord and then your Lord distributes it, right? Or we'll work it into our shrines. We'll make this a part of how we go about doing things. But I do want to make sure that there is that kind of limitation in there so that it isn't just go out and seek knowledge. It's go out and seek knowledge, and then you also have to come back.
And then bring it back to me.
You got to bring it back.
I love that. Oh, that's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get into this situation, as the turtle mentioned, maybe the Lord might want to keep it for themselves. Or maybe not.
We don't know.
But
it's not a samurai's duty to like question one's Lord's motivations, right? Like it's just that's the lifestyle. That's what it is.
Exactly.
Fantastic.
Well, I think that's a really cool Giri. I think we can definitely do something with that. So we're going to move on.
Is it specific enough? Yeah.
I think for now it is.
Cool.
If we find as we're fleshing out the world that we do need to make it more precise, we can change it. And remember that your Giri can change.
Of course, yeah.
It's not the sort of thing that it's not the sort of thing that changes like randomly, but it's possible that you also may resolve a Giri, in which case you'll need a new one.
Got a new one. Right? Yeah, exactly.
Now, this is a pretty open Giri. It's not like your Giri is go to point A and then put this apple on a plate and then come back. Right? It's pretty open-ended.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that, but yeah.
But it is possible that at some point your Giri may change because you will be reassigned.
Right.
So then we have not necessarily the opposite, but the other aspect to you, your ninjo. So your ninjo, the question specifically is, what does your character long for and how might this impede their duty? So when we're selecting your ninjo, we do have to make sure that this can come into conflict with your Giri. Not always, they don't have to be diametric opposites, but if it's just like, oh yeah, I also really like finding information.
Okay, cool. Like that's fine.
Like,
yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
So you did mention some of this before, So why don't you restate
Yeah.
what your idea was for your
I'm gonna
ninja?
restate it, and I want to make it specific, right? Like that's what I want to rap with you about here, John. I want to rap with you about it, man.
Should I
so
swing my chair around so that I'm like,
Oh, what a
sitting
cool
backwards on it?
teacher!
And then I'll
Love
have
it.
like my motorcycle helmet off to the side so you know that like I don't play by the rules.
This Lord is getting better and better every second. Honestly. What I wrote in my notes was to develop relationships with AI across NeoRokugan in pursuit of the power needed to carve out more space for humanity. I'm going to ditch the first part of that because it's like specific, but the ninja, I think, would be power in order to carve out more space for humanity, power to get out from under the thumb of the AI.
So you're looking
that's a
to
pretty
break
big
free
desire.
from AI influence.
Yeah, I think he is. And like, is that a little wild because some of his power comes from them? Yes. It's a bit strange.
Is it open rebellion against AI, or is it more just like we were more self-sufficient before, we can be self-sufficient again?
I think it's it closer to the second. We could self-sufficiency for humanity, maybe a free zone or a free state, it doesn't have to be like smash all the AI. It doesn't have to be rebellion. It can just be
To live alongside AI as opposed to living
under them.
under them.
I like that. Yeah.
So your ninja is working to give humanity the opportunity to live alongside instead of supplicating to AI. Now, here's something that I'll point out about this. You still maintain shrines, or not necessarily maintain shrines, but you still are heavily involved in shrines.
Mm-hmm.
Do you resent shrines?
I think it's a fascinating question, right? I think in no small part, yes, because they represent the thing that is like, I was trying to think of a good analogy, but I won't.
So do you hate AI?
No, because they're part of the fabric of reality. Like, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think we're going to be playing in a setting where our characters would have personally lived through the singularity.
No.
So it's just a part of reality now.
It'd be the equivalent of hating the sun.
Exactly, right? It's like, well, fuck, man, like, why bother? It's more about, rather than hating AI and hating the shrines, it's more so thinking, do we have to do things this way? Does it have to be, like, can I supplicate to them to make a deal instead of having to supplicate to them just because?
So is it perhaps, we've written here, the current sentence that I have written down is working to give humanity the opportunity to live alongside instead of supplicating to AI. Is it perhaps working to give humanity more independence?
Yes, independence is a great way to put that. I like that. Humanity.
Working to give humanity more independence from AI.
Yes, exactly. Because again, right, like, I think it would be ridiculous to think that you could be completely independent in this setting, in this world. But more of it is possible.
Now, you are beholden to uphold the tenets of Bushido.
Mm-hmm.
We will be asking this question later on. So we're going to hold on to this for now, because I think this is a good ninja. We may have to circle back to it at some point if we discover that the way that this universe works...
Sorry.
We may have to decide that we may have to alter it if this universe won't support that ninja, or if it's just going to put you at severe odds with the universe. But I don't think so off the top of my head. So let's hold on to it and see where it goes.
Yeah, it does mean that the ninja isn't something that I can just be like, advertise, right? Because there are people who would be like, well, that's fucking dangerous. Like, it'd be bad news. So,
right.
Anyway, cool. Yeah.
That makes sense to me. Question 7. What is your character's relationship with their clan?
All right.
Do you firmly believe in the precepts of your clan and the values that it holds dear? Or do you have a fundamental disagreement with your clan's beliefs, policies, or practices, and you've defied them in the past so you can gain a rank and a skill in which you have no ranks?
Mm-hmm. I like the idea that there is a disagreement with one aspect of how the Phoenix Clan believes the world to run. Like, obviously, the Phoenix Clan sort of like precepts of gathering knowledge of and serving the AI is something that my character believes in because that's part of the reality of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I wrote it down, the Phoenix Clan also has a belief of self-sacrifice and restraint, i.e. serving something greater than yourself.
Right.
And I feel like my character has a disagreement with this aspect because sacrificing yourself doesn't help you achieve your goals. Does that make sense?
So occasionally you have questioned the concept of self-sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I would point out that this doesn't mean that at the start of game you come in and you're automatically like the bad boy, right? Like it's not like that. The idea is that that you've come in and every once in a while you've just been like, I don't know about this, and people are like, yeah, but it's the way it is. Mm-hmm. If you were somebody who always towed the line, then yes, you would get more glory because you do your job and everybody notices it, but they're always like, that person's such a fine phoenix, right? They're like the epitome of what we believe the Phoenix Clan should be.
Absolutely.
And you're not. You are
Exactly.
You are of the Phoenix Clan, but you aren't necessarily a paragon of it.
Mm-hmm.
In that case, what skill do you want to increase?
Oh, this is so exciting for me because it really could be anything as long as it, in my mind, is justified by not wanting to self-sacrifice all the time. To not be there's a word for that, but anyway, okay. So I was leaning towards there are quite a few actually. So the one that jumped out to me immediately was commerce, weirdly enough, because commerce is about obtaining what you yeah, sure. Commerce is about obtaining what you want and what you need.
Okay.
Which is kind of, in a way, the opposite of restraint, right? Restraint is, I'll just make do with what I have. Now, with that logic, I could probably apply it to a whole bunch of different abilities.
Yes.
Yes, you could. I'll say that for now, I think.
You'll say commerce for now?
I'll say commerce for now, and I'll see if there's another skill that I end up not having any ranks in that I'm like, oh, this makes more sense. Cool.
Well, we knew this question was coming, and here it is. What does your character think of Bushido?
Yeah. Again, you can't really be a samurai if you're like, hey, fuck Bushido entirely. That's silly. But I believe that there is once again, a disagreement or a divergence with one of the aspects of it.
Okay.
To be righteous means to always stand on the side of justice. At least that's how I sort of interpret the word.
Yes.
And I don't believe my character is righteous at all times. Perhaps he does unjust things. The ends justify the means, perhaps, shall we say.
Okay, excellent.
How do we feel about that?
That works for me. I got no notes, but this does mean that you're going to gain a rank in one of the following skills because it reflects past behavior that might have been unbefitting of a samurai: commerce, labor, medicine, seafaring, skullduggery, or survival.
Ooh, okay. Okay. Off the bat, skullduggery seems like it fits. Seafaring is really cool because I know we're also going to take that to be like airships and shit in this universe. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take skullduggery and I'm going to leave it there because that's something that I think I'll need. And
honestly, again, we can go back to things and then choose to make changes. It's all good.
Yay. Space.
Moving on to part 4, your strengths and your weaknesses. What is your character's greatest accomplishment so far?
this was tough. Because I read the section. The section allows you to choose a specific distinction based on. Sorry, Ripley. Sorry, bud.
I like how also it's from the same. Like, it's not like the tail is returning, which means
she's
that
literally
Ripley
just
made
doing
a
this.
circuit.
What an asshole. She's just, oh god. Your greatest accomplishment allows you to choose like a distinction, a merit, essentially, that either is something you got or something that helped you do the thing.
Yes. And we can create a custom one.
Oh, yes, we can. Okay, hang on. Where did I write all these down? I wrote down a whole bunch of things that I thought would be
here.
Cool.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to respond here to Cobalt of Doom.
Cobalt.
Couldn't you be a samurai by not believing in Bushido but always towing the line and doing the expected actions, at least in public, like Bushido lip service? Yes, you absolutely can.
Why the hell not?
It's also accepted that samurai aren't perfect. They're just not.
It's impossible, right? It's impossible. Yeah.
It's not like the objective of this game is to have the highest honor and glory and status possible. You can choose that as a goal for your character if you want, but it's not a requirement. It's an option. We also have the turtle asks, what was your thoughts when you were picking smithing? But I think you kind of covered that, the idea that you would be able to craft and repair
Weapons and armor, yeah.
And then
That was my thought.
Reading Aloud says, do you see your character as more likely to be a reformist or a renegade arc story?
I mean, the difference between those two words for me comes down to, is the intention to help others or to seize some sort of like advantage? So I don't know. We're going to see how the story goes. The word renegade is jumping out to me though.
r/I am very badass.
Oh no, I'm gonna play someone who thinks they're a badass, but they're not. Oh no, it's gonna happen again.
I'm
fine.
14 and this is deep.
Yes, I do my Naruto run. You know, it's gonna be great, John. You're gonna love it.
Did you find what you had written down for your greatest accomplishment?
Well, I found a bunch of possible advantages and things. One's greatest accomplishment has to be something that would be seen as relatively positive, I imagine, right? Like, your best accomplishment can't be like killing the emperor. Like, it's a big accomplishment.
That's a pretty
but
great
it's not,
accomplishment.
It's a good point, actually. Oh boy. I'm wondering if, and let's talk through this, John. Whether my character successfully defended a shrine or a series of shrines from an incursion from perhaps another clan or something. He fought back against an attack single-handedly and managed to sort of destroy the attacking force, which might involve some supernatural creatures. I don't know.
My spell check is telling me that defense should be written with an S. And I'm like, not today.
Spell check. There's other ways to spell things. Bastards.
So a successful defense of a shrine from another clan's incursion, that definitely seems like an appropriate great accomplishment. Did you have an idea of what distinction you wanted to take, or did you want to create your own?
There were a lot that seemed really cool in the list. So I think the ones that I was leaning towards would be and because it would have to tie into this sort of thing, right? Two things.
Sure.
Two ideas. One of the advantages is blackmail, as in you have blackmail on somebody.
Yeah.
This would presumably relate to the fact that the incursion left behind enough evidence of who was behind it that I have blackmail on that person. The other one is a more general advantage, but it seems appropriate for sort of a monkey archer type, which is keen sight. Feels pretty legit to me. I also wrote keen hearing, sight, smell.
So keen sight, you can spot details of objects at a much greater distance than others can, and you might pick up on small visual details that others might overlook. And when you perform a check from which you need to spot details or see things at a distance, like an aesthetics water check, or a martial arts ranged water check to hit a faraway target, you may reroll up to 2 dice. That seems pretty good. Blackmail is absolutely something that you can take. The difference, though, for blackmail is that we're going to have to define who you are blackmailing.
Yes, of course.
So that's a bigger question. I mean, the turtle asked, for instance, what clan? I'm uncomfortable saying which clan because we don't know what clan yet Liz may pick, right? And I don't want to force you have blackmail over somebody in the clan from which Liz's character hails, unless Liz is okay with that. So I don't want to fully flesh out what this defense was. Did you have one that you were leaning towards in terms of blackmail or keen sight?
Yeah, keen sight. But like, I would be sad to let. It's true, right? I feel sad letting blackmail go, so I'm keeping it in my mind in case it comes up again.
I'd keep it in mind. I will point out that there is something about choosing blackmail which sort of ties things to that character. And that's not a bad choice, but it is a deliberate choice.
Yes.
Because if then that character goes away, then your distinction no longer helps you, in which case you probably have to choose another one.
Right.
So we'll put keen sight down for now, but
cool.
If you then at some point, if while we're fleshing things out, you're like, no, I really want to have dirt on this person. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
You can come back. What holds your character back the most in life?
This was an example of me finding they're not called distinctions, they're called disadvantage, or like a disadvantage that really called to me, and now I'm working backwards. What holds my character back most in life, John, is the fact that he just can't seem to make it click with people on a personal level. Not that he's not personable, but things get misinterpreted. People feel like he doesn't seem able to make a really great impression on people.
So in other words, you don't have any friends.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
But maybe in spite of himself, he has friends. Do you see what I mean? Like, that's interesting to me.
Okay. But your character struggles to be your character struggles to truly connect.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And you know what? Actually, that would tie quite well into like having studied AI for so long and studied myself for so long, like with meditation or whatever. There's not so much importance placed on like how to read people, how to know how people feel. Yeah.
And what adversity were you looking at for that?
The one that called to me is called Benton's Curse. I think it's like the second in the disadvantage
Benton's
list.
Curse. It's the first.
Wow. Okay.
Your romantic efforts are always stymied by circumstances, and your gestures to get the romantic attention of others are usually misinterpreted. And when you make a check to express your admiration to someone, such as aesthetics air, to find the right poem to read, to express your feelings, or courtesy air check to tell someone your feelings without exceeding propriety, you must choose and reroll 2 dice containing a success or splitting. After resolving the check, if you fail to get 1 void point. So I am going to throw this out there. Yeah. This adversity, we may want to, like, I think that we might want to find something similar to it, but I don't know if we want to find something exact to
that
it.
One.
Based on just the concept of something that you had mentioned earlier, is that romance is something that you are still interested in these games. I'm not sure if you necessarily, maybe you do. Maybe this is something you want to observe, but do you want to play a character for whom you're constantly unlucky in love?
I'd rather play a character who finds it challenging.
But
like this would just be like, oh well, you fucked up again, you know.
Because
Thought it
the
was
idea
fun.
of your romantic efforts are always stymied by circumstances, and your gestures to get the romantic
Yeah.
attention of others are usually misinterpreted. I think that we could probably make this work, because I personally don't want to read that literally.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah, exactly right. Like always is just
yeah,
so
always to me is just then you're basically like, well, forever alone, and I don't want that. But
always in love with married women.
yeah, so to me, it's
For
just
example.
more along the lines of like romance is going to be harder for you.
And some of the drawbacks are like mechanically speaking quite a bit more challenging, or would come up quite a bit more often. But does this seem does it seem interesting? It's interesting to me, John. That's why I want to say that.
All right.
But does it seem interesting to you too?
So I think that this is something that we can absolutely look at, Benton's Curse.
Okay.
And I do think that we're just going to have to make sure that, and I think it will probably be fine, that this is something that you must overcome as opposed to something that will limit you forever.
Yeah. Yes.
Because I don't want the game to feel like, Liz and Kate get to basically run off and have great romantic adventures, and you, every time you meet somebody, you basically put your foot in their mouth and they're like, ugh.
Again. Yeah.
So
The just sort of speaking into that then, John, like there are a couple other disadvantages that are similar, right? So like bluntness, for example, is the tendency to express things directly, even when maybe you should try to be a bit more diplomatic. That's like, to me, that's similar. It feels similar. So if that's something that we would prefer, we can do that, but we can also talk about it as
So you know what? I'm actually going to put bluntness down as well,
Excellent. Okay, all right.
and we
Oh,
can
two
discuss.
then.
No,
Okay, great.
we're. I mean, it is possible that you may have more than one adversity, but I think that this is the kind of thing that we should discuss just to make sure, because it is something that I think we'll be able to work with.
Great. Excellent.
I just want to make sure that you and I are on the same page about it, but I think we are.
Yeah. I like to think so.
The turtle does mention something very interesting, and I'm going to actually highlight it because I do think that it's something to keep in mind. You want romance to be an effort. Also, the thing is, from what I've noticed, romance isn't normally a mechanical thing and much more of a role-playing thing, with hardly any rolls. I think meant roll, ROLLS. As in, we don't use a whole lot of dice when we work out romance in our games on this channel. So this is going to be something that maybe more things that I have to interpret manually in my head, as opposed to, okay, well, I guess it will never come up because I'm probably not going to ask you to make those rolls.
But if there are rules to do with like trying to impress someone with whatever courtesy or something, then it could perhaps. But yeah, that is actually a really good point. And I don't want to be someone who's like, I'm going to pick this disadvantage because it'll never come up. Like, I'm not that guy. Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to be an issue along those lines either. Because rolls, I think, are things that we still do every once in a while. But I think that you and I can also just keep in the back of my mind that you may not be the best when it comes to, picking a gift for somebody.
Sure. That's fair. That's really fair.
What activity most makes your character feel at peace?
Activity is where I'm kind of getting stuck, because I feel like the thing that makes him most feel at peace is control of knowledge, knowing secrets about people. But that's not like, it's not a hobby, it's not an activity.
Well, because
it's just
gossip
sort of-
is one of the passions that you can choose. But I'm also going to remind you that you can and probably should have more than one goal. And not necessarily, okay, goal's the wrong word, but more than one interest.
Yeah.
If your character is just hyper focused on, I must break humanity from these chains, I must get humanity on the same level as AI, we have to work together, and there's the tail, then that doesn't create a more fleshed out sort of character. maybe your character also enjoys gambling. Maybe your character also enjoys, taking long walks on the beach, right? Maybe your character is the kind of person who, despite the fact that he's completely unlucky in love, really likes to dream up erotic fiction. I don't know, right?
God damn, sure. Who knows?
So, it's a momentary screen wiper. So, did you have a passion that you had selected?
I'm rejigging it right now because what you're saying is exciting to me, John. Like, something that is sort of unrelated to this character because it just happens to be something that's of interest. And
I think it's just very easy to hyper focus on well, my character does this and my character does that, and that's it. And you're like,
yeah, I have a bow, so I like bows, and I have secrets, so I like secrets, or whatever it is. I quite like. There's one here that is fortune telling. I really like the idea of this person, despite being a relatively down to earth, having a practical approach to certain things, having as a hobby something that he enjoys, interpreting signs and portents and like getting his fortune read, and like maybe he knows how to do some like sweet Neo Tarot.
You're a chaos theory.
Ooh, yeah, exactly, John. Yeah, this is a shaper. This is a shaper for sure. Just putting.
Oh, so you're a shaper. You're not an anarch. You're a shaper.
I don't think so. Oh no. Okay, no. We're going to talk about that later because that's a whole goal thing.
Because you and I will have ways to talk about this.
Yes.
Based on a cyberpunk universe. So fortune telling, I think, is a good thing to put in here.
It's intriguing to me. Yeah.
Okay. And then what concern, fear, or foible troubles your character the most?
For this, I look back to that section on my relationship with Bushido, right? Or no, with the clan. The Phoenix clan, sort of like one of their guiding principles is self-sacrifice and restraint and so on. And
right.
I wonder if my character is not interested, is scared of death, is scared of having to lose something.
So fear of death. Specifically, you
can
cannot voluntarily choose to die or sacrifice your life. And if there's a chance you could live, you must always pursue it. After performing a check to risk your life or accept your mortality, such as a meditation earth check to find inner tranquility before battle, or a tactics earth check to hold a position against long odds, you receive 3 strife. And if it's the first time this has occurred this scene, you gain 1 void point.
So like confronting the possibility of your own mortality, even. It's just
I am going to add something to this, though.
Hit me up.
In this game, specifically, the concept of seppuku is not one that we are going to put forward. The idea of sacrificing one's life for a cause, yes, that is true. Like, I will stand on this bridge and fight to the last breath. That totally, no problem. I got no issue with that. If a samurai is encouraged to redeem their, like if they are basically, they've fucked their honor into the ground and they need to redeem themselves, the idea would be that you would remove your skulljack.
Right. Yes, we did talk
that you, in removing your skulljack, you remove the teachings of your samurai career and you can no longer ever interface with AI at all. You essentially become a shell of your former self. I would argue that this is also something that your character would have to fear in this case.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. I wonder if it almost feels too far, but I'm gonna keep it and we're gonna play it. Because that's one of the tenets of Bushido, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
again,
exactly.
You can choose to not, you can choose to change it. You'll even be able to choose these things, 3-4 sessions in, right? Like the grace period applies. But I do like the idea that, that there's something, because again, I think that this would be the sort of thing that it's not that you will never, ever, ever be able to choose to die or sacrifice your life. It's not a hard and fast, there's absolutely nothing you can do. But it's instead this is something that's completely antithetical to your character's beliefs and will resist it however they possibly can.
Absolutely.
I mean, also, to be fair, if you do end up voluntarily choosing to die, well, then that's a great way for your character to fucking go.
Whee!
So it's a fear of death. I think we can just
See.
put that in there. Who has your character learned the most from during their life?
I was imagining, despite what we talked about in terms of like Benton's curse and interpersonal relationships and stuff, I was imagining a relationship with like a healer, like with how do I want to say this? Sorry, I was imagining a relationship a la Ebenezer Scrooge. He falls in love, and then his own shit gets in the way of his relationship, so he it's broken off, right?
Right.
So who has your character learned the most from during their life? It's actually a really good question.
A former lover.
Yeah. That's so strange given one of the disadvantages I have, but I'm gonna say, again, we don't know who it is.
Possibly
yet.
It's the one relationship that you've had that you've successfully managed to get, and then you fucked it. Because remember, the other thing is that in terms of being a samurai, you're not encouraged to be in these relationships. In a lot of cases, you don't even have the option to. So,
exactly. Yeah.
An interesting question. But you may have learned a whole bunch from this person. So in this case, you can choose to either have either a skill increase and you get another disadvantage.
Huh.
In which case, I mean, you were looking at, say, bluntness and Benton's curse. This would be a way to do it. Or you gain an advantage related to your character's mentor and their relationship.
Mm-hmm. I have, again, like lists of advantages and disadvantages that interested me. But the other advantage of like blackmail doesn't really fit here. I don't think it seems strange. So
oh, I'm so glad we're together. By the way, did you know that this guy's an asshole? Here's why.
Here's some photos. Yeah, exactly. I wonder then about taking the other option, which would be a skill increase. Medicine is a skill that really interested me in this game, and if this former lover was someone who was a medical practitioner, I would have learned from them. The disadvantage to go with it, though, like you mentioned, that there's bluntness is, I mean, it's similar. Mm-hmm. I also was looking at, John, one of the disadvantages listed here is haunting, which I'm going to find it, and I will have a look at it with you, because it might be too close to something that we've done before.
Haunting is on page 122.
Thank you. Perfect. Yeah, so the following apply to a character with the haunted diversity. There's a spirit interferes with yours at inopportune times, and they have their own agenda. And then when you try to defy the will of the spirit haunting you, you must choose and re-roll 2 dice containing successes or explosive successes, blah, blah, blah. That interested me. I don't know how it fits with this sort of situation, so maybe I'll leave it on the side.
I think you might need to, because I do think that we've also done this before.
That's
specifically
true.
you and I.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's an interesting idea, but I think it also would be a little bit kind of a challenge to make it fit in this universe. Not necessarily an insurmountable one, but because it's a challenge and it's also something we've done before, I'd suggest bluntness as a great disadvantage to pick.
Absolutely.
And what skill increase did you want?
+1 medicine.
Okay.
There's also okay, perfect, done. I'll put it in here, and we'll see if something else jumps out to me as like,
obviously,
ooh.
Right?
Yeah,
nothing here is set in stone. 14. What do people notice first upon encountering your character? So this is a lot of this is quite honestly, these are like quirks and a personal accoutrement that you'll be able to have. I don't care if you don't answer this question.
Okay.
The personal accoutrement you might want to answer just because it's an identifying piece of clothing.
Well, could it be something not even clothing necessarily, but like even in this universe, how do we feel about like a bun that's tied up with a short arrow? It's like a very distinctive sort of adornment of the character.
So I don't want to say what I
No.
no. This is a great idea. The thing is, I always think of if it's a long thing to tie, my first instinct is to always call that a thong.
Yeah.
And I don't think I want to put thong here because I think that people will be like, tee hee.
That's fair.
So this is sort of, in your case, this is an arrowhead hair ornament.
Yeah.
Sure.
Because it would be like more so for holding it together, right? Again, I'll contemplate it.
Sure.
Because it's also a weapon. It's also kind of a concealed weapon in a way. It's not concealed.
I mean, coming up with something to put down here as a personality, a habit, or a quirk, that's fine. But we'll look into it.
Yeah.
So how does your character react to stressful situations?
I have to look at this section again briefly here.
So this is specifically although samurai are supposed to maintain proper decorum and conceal their emotions, few of them are truly able to control their feelings at all times. Even the most stoic and rigidly self-controlled samurai occasionally lets out a true sign of feeling, especially when they are being berated by their lord or treated disrespectfully by their subordinates. What emotions does your character show and why? What events or feelings can make them lose their self-control? Conversely, what emotions can they always control no matter what? Describe a noteworthy physical response that your character has during times of stress, and note it under the Personality, Habits, and Quirks section of the character sheet. As your character's strife approaches their composure, your character may display this behavior, and it could play a part anytime they unmask.
Ooh. A physical quirk, not a quirk, but like a physical reaction to stress is really cool. I don't have one at this time. To answer more broadly, what sort of emotions are quick to kind of come to the fore? This person feels, spitefulness, sarcasm, maybe even anger, sort of, responding to stress with a sort of I don't give a fuck attitude, as opposed to like letting it in,
Right. The IDGAF approach.
Exactly. I'm going to write that down too.
Reading
John.
aloud just wants cramps.
Charlie horse. It's always a Charlie horse in my left leg. Just like collapses on the ground.
And everyone's like, his leg. It always happens.
So weird.
What are your character's pre-existing relationships with other clans, families, organizations, and traditions?
Mm-hmm.
And this basically means that you're going to get to pick an item of rarity 7 or lower that you received as a gift or that you took from battle from them. So I'm going to suggest that we leave this blank.
Okay.
Unless you know what item you want to get. Did you have ideas for this already?
I had some ideas that, like, having had relationship with either a clan or an organization that's sort of more criminal in nature would result in me maybe having access to either a poison or, some sort of skullduggerous item. Hacking is not, we talked about this, it's not something that you need specialized equipment for, because like the Shugenja can kind of just do it. So
I think you do need some specialized equipment potentially. Like if you don't have a computer interface, maybe you can't, right? Like, I think that there are certain kinds of hacking that you may need, like a hard connection or the equivalent of a scroll. I have a tablet in front of me, that sort of thing. So I don't think that that's necessarily completely out of the question, but it could be, for instance, a bow, for instance. Like right now, you have a Yumi, which is one kind of bow. But you could get up to a Daikyu, which is a much larger bow with a longer range, more damage. Of course, you have to be
further away, right?
Further away. And it counts as war gear, but maybe you will have like a bow that you can use as normal, but then you have a kick-ass bow right?
That would tie into this possible greatest achievement, right? Like it was a weapon that was given as either a thank you or as a, something that was taken off of someone.
Is it possible that you have, like, you have Sanctified Robes?
Mm-hmm.
That's useful.
It's a good thing to have.
The question of, do you have a different kind of armor? Do you have, in personal effects, maybe you have a Divination Kit?
Ooh, what? Tell me about that. As
Divination Kits are popular among both
here.
superstitious peasants and the mystical Shugenja. Divination Kits are used to tell the future or otherwise commune with the spirit realms. A Divination Kit may contain special coins, sticks, bones, or other small items with metaphysical import. Diviners use these kits by casting their coins or sticks on the ground and reading the patterns they create for omens or portents.
I mean, this ties in with the passion, right? The sort of like fortune telling as well, right? Which is, I know, more of a hobby. That's what I'm going to go with for now. I love the idea of just having this additional way of kind of like contacting the beyond, or so to speak.
Could be a musical instrument, but
could be.
We'll put a Divination Kit and we'll figure out what that would mean.
Chopsticks.
Sorry,
I was looking at the items list.
Divination. Okay, and then that might relate to your previous kind of accomplishments, but we will figure that out.
Yeah, it's all starting to come together, though. This is exciting.
How would your character's parents describe them?
Yeah, sorry.
Now, for this question specifically, this is going to give you a rank in a skill in which you have 0 ranks, and it's going to determine whether your character's parents approve of this or not.
Yeah, what I wrote was defied expectations early and broke from them, is what I wrote early, or what I wrote in my sort of like notes here. I like the idea of if I just quickly zip back to skills just to make sure I'm not missing anything, I'd be curious to are skills after techniques? No, they are before.
Skills are chapter 3.
Thank you very much.
They're before techniques.
That's the ticket. I'm not quite sure how to sort of tie this in here. I feel like my parents would have been, they would describe me as being like always on the move, always kind of flighty, not necessarily spending enough time to sort of like honor them at home because there was always something bigger out there.
Right.
And what that would kind of lead to, I'm hoping, would be a dot in seafaring, which is, again, we were talking about it being the use of like various kinds of vehicles and stuff, right?
Right.
I think was how we described it.
You'd go on joyrides.
Yes. Yeah, essentially. Oh man, sorry, I can already tell, John, the crafts of this campaign is going to be labor. Everyone's going to be like, why? I don't need labor. And then you're going to be like, dig this ditch. We're going to be in big trouble.
Why did you dig this fucking ditch? All right. Who is your character named to honor? Now.
Okay. Yes.
This is the table that you'll see
Yay.
that's on page 96.
Yeah.
Where it says that you have to roll dice for it.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Okay.
I will let you choose
one
of these things if you wish. But basically, you're choosing the heritage, and that's going to modify your glory or your honor, and you will also get another effect from that as well.
Excellent. I am looking at the effects and working backwards because if I get to choose, I'm so happy to roll for this because
if you would prefer to roll, then we can roll. Why don't we roll right now, and then if you choose that you don't,
and
like
then if I hate it,
then you can just change it.
Can I grab a D10 or are you gonna
grab
roll?
a D10?
Yes, D10s.
Okay, he's gone. What are we gonna do?
I got him.
All right.
All right.
Roll 1d10.
Here it comes. Got a 3.
So a 3 is your ancestor was known for a wondrous work, which means that you get +5 glory.
Oh, well, that's okay.
One of your ancestors crafted a piece of great beauty that won renown for your family, and others expect you to live up to that legacy.
Okay.
Roll a d10 again.
Let's see if I like this. A 6.
That will give you +1 rank in composition.
Oh. So presumably it was a work of writing. Presumably, right?
Presumably. Now, here's
Okay.
the other thing, though. A 9 to 10 would give you a +1 rank in smithing, which would bring you up to 2.
To 2. That is true.
Is that something that interests you more?
It does. Yeah.
So why don't we make that smithing
Okay.
for now?
We're going to half roll.
Yep.
Gonna half roll on the table.
I mean, look, you can also, at any point, choose to do something else. For instance, you could be a ruthless victor, in which case your honor goes down by 5, but you can pump up your martial arts by 1. You can even have an unusual name origin, and then you basically move one of your ring dots from one to another. But you know.
Yeah, I see that, right? Like in additional techniques, rings, you gain a whole other merit. Like, it's cool stuff. This makes sense to me, because then this also then feeds back a little bit to maybe, how would your parents describe them? Well, he's got this, he's supposed to live up to this expectation of creating great things, but it's just not going to happen,
Right.
Maybe it is. Who knows?
And then it asks, what is your character's personal name? So here's the thing. You have a name that you have, like a standard name, and then you also have a personal name. Have you named your character yet?
No, I had a joke name ages ago. Not a joke name, a name that I was like, oh, this would be great for a cyberpunk campaign. But now that we're here, I'm like...
So why don't we leave this blank for now?
I will leave this blank for now. Names are always... Anyway, yeah.
And then finally, there goes the tail.
Sorry. Yep.
How should your character die? Now, as I told Kate, this is not a question you will be answering on stream.
Right.
You're going to come up with an answer, and you're going to write down that answer, and you're going to put it in an envelope at session 0. I will see the answer, or rather, I'll read the answer, then you'll seal the envelope. And then at the end of the game, we'll read them together. And if you ever decide that your character's death should change, then we'll open the envelope and put both of them in.
Okay. That's fun.
So again, choosing how your character should die is going to be taken into account, but it will not guarantee that this is how your character's story is going to end. But it is an idea that we may consider. And we'll see how lethal this game is, because I'm not sure how lethal it will be.
That does make sense to me. Also, for someone who is particularly averse to the idea of sacrificing himself or dying or whatever, it's just like, that's going to figure in something very important.
Tail?
I think that'll be the last time. Just kidding.
Whoa! So there you go. I mean, that's it.
Yay!
Those are your 20 questions.
So I think we answered a good chunk of them, even if some of them are like, hey, this seems okay, but like, tell me more. Yeah.
Now, how do you feel about your character so far?
I haven't shaken the fact that what I kind of see in my mind as like a sort of an image, I like to try to find art to sort of reflect the idea as well. What I see in my mind as the image of the character is a little opposed to some of the things on the sheet. Not in a bad way necessarily. But that's exciting. It's now more exciting to me to figure out where those discrepancies are and discover, am I leaning into it or am I changing it?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Are you? No, you don't. You wouldn't care. Are you excited? It's my character, I know, but like,
of
you
course
gotta
I'm
play with
excited.
this guy. So
Here,
whatever.
so if I had to say, here are the notes that I'm just gonna throw out there, just in terms of, is this going to work out or not? You've selected a character that I think varies from your others. This character seems to be one which is more sarcastic, more hard, and yet perhaps still has a yearning to be seen and accepted that might be difficult. At first I was like, oh, is bluntness going to make you too similar to Braum? And then I was like, no, I don't think so. Braum isn't blunt, he's literal.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like,
I was worried about that.
He
too.
could be blunt, and at times
Sure.
he was, but I don't think that was something like, oh yeah, Braum's just totally going to always, just lay it out there. Whereas this character might. I will advise you on a couple of things. The first being your character is socially, at the moment, your character has two social disadvantages. Your character has the specifically we have the not fear of death. We have Benton's curse, and then later on we have bluntness. This is going to be something that you're going to have to just make sure you're okay with. A lot of the game that we play is social.
Yep.
So are you all right with the idea that your character is going to have perhaps a struggle in this particular situation? Now remember, Kate played Patches in Changeling with Charisma 1 for almost the entire time.
Yep. And there's ways of working around it with manipulation or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, if only because I still, like, I don't think the disadvantages outweigh the fact that the character can still be alive and like interacting with people and like have goals and needs and wants. Like it's not like I'm not choosing to play someone who's like, I don't interact with people. That would be disastrous, I think, for a game.
Right.
I also don't think you would let that happen. Because
Probably not.
Silly. Yeah.
Then otherwise, I really like this character.
Okay.
I would recommend that you take a character sheet, start filling it out with the stuff that you've kind of put down here, and see if it appeals to you at all. We're going to have a chance to get to know this character alongside the others, and we'll figure out where it sort of stands. Pure void disciple with no interaction. I mean,
all meditation, all void, all theology, nothing else.
Man, wouldn't that person just be like a fucking asshole at the end?
Agreed.
Being like, what do you think we should do? Let the universe decide. God damn it, Gary.
Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. This
Gary,
is 5 Paths Ascending. Yeah.
I think I love you. I think love is a meaningless concept. Like, oh fuck.
God fucking damn it, Gary. I love it. I love it.
Do you want to have sex, Gary? Does the universe want me to have sex?
What is sexual intercourse? Oh, Gary!
If someone falls on my dick and I don't make a sound.
What the fuck?
Oh, fuck. What do we have coming up tomorrow, Scott?
It's Punchy. It's Punchy at 6:00 p.m. Eastern Time over on twitch.tv/Elizabeth A. Neal. We're playing Mass Effect 2. We must be near the end. I feel like we're near the end.
Well, we'll see if you are.
Exciting.
May all the aliens fall at your feet and grovel for the right to copulate.
Well, at least just the one that we want, right?
You know. Saturday,
there's 2 streams for usually. You can, of course, check Discord for information and updates on those. Drew Crew at 3:00 Eastern. We're reading The Clue of the Whistling Bagpipes. That's always a blast. And then at 5 p.m., I will most likely be continuing my Doomed campaign, Arkham Horror, the card game.
Sunday, there is going to be a stream. We're not exactly sure what it's going to be just yet, but on this channel at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can join us. It will be a lot of fun, but we just we have some logistics that we got to work out. So we're going to do that. But in the meantime, Scott, I am compelled to ask, if you're having a problem in your role-playing game or possibly even life in general, I
Yeah.
know that there's something to do that can be awfully difficult sometimes. But what is a good idea to do?
I honestly try to live by this as much as I can. Use your word hole.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
Bye.